Hello, today we are covering gold trim, which I think is an area that a lot of people find scarier than is necessary. We're going to tell you how to let your model paint itself, especially if it's chaos, which is the hardest one to do, but the easiest one to do if you follow our steps. We're going to jump straight into the tutorial, but stick around at the end if you want a little bit of theory. With that theory, you will be able to achieve good guys gold, bad guys gold, high contrast gold, low contrast gold, and we're going to do it and show you how to do it using literally exactly the same paints, just in different proportions. All right, let's jump in. Okay, so quick but pretty gold trim. I'm going to do it on this, which is going to be done in kind of a chaos undivided style. At the end, I will cover some very quick nuances you can use to either affiliate it to one of the gods, Slaanesh, Nurgle, Khorne, Tzeentch, or just do generic looking gold. And it's pretty high impact and it's quite fast and it's very convenient. So basically, we're going to be working backwards. And what I mean by that is we're going to be base coating with Retributor, which we're going to give some help with Doomball. And then we're just going to get darker with washes very, very, very quickly until the end. And I know this will look like a few steps, but you're putting down less and less each time, so it's pretty convenient and pretty fast. Let's give these a shake and we can begin. Base coat or undercoat wise, if convenient, your entire piece could be brown. Now the reason for being brown is that gold goes best over brown. If you pick a dull brown, your gold will come out more dull. Let me get this as a comparison. Imagine those were golds. You get a warm, bright gold, and you get a slightly more dull one going down over that. Really easy. Don't need any color theory or anything. Just look at it. And if it's bright, then you're going to get a kind of more vivid one. And if it's dull, you'll get a more dull one. If it's convenient, your entire piece could be brown, which is nice and easy because you don't have to worry about mess. Otherwise, you can mix this with this and you'll get a pretty good base coat pretty fast. With trim, you always want to go over the edges of it if you have the ability to. So if you're at a stage when you're early on in the painting and this is the first thing you're doing, which I try and make it because we're going to be filling in the gaps afterwards, then you don't have to worry about mess and you can make sure that you go up to, including, and over the edges. That's very important. You can miss this stuff really easily. So I'm going to make sure that I get all of the sections. Obviously, if your entire thing was brown, then you kind of, you mitigate this. And mine could be here, but it doesn't matter too much. It's got pretty good coverage for a layer paint rather than a base paint Doomball. As long as you've got 2 thin coats down, you are good. You can see I'm not worrying about it being neat or perfect, doesn't matter. But as far as an undercoat, that's fine. Now for the Retributor, not worrying about cleaning my brush, just doesn't matter that much. They're very similar colors anyway. One's like a gold version of the other. And this should pretty much get 1 coat coverage. Again, I'm making sure that this goes up to, including, and over my edges. We've already got a pretty good quality gold there. Not sure if that's noticeable as we don't have a comparison, but that is a nice, warm, chaosy gold, perfect for trim, and it's going to really stand out against black in particular. Quick note, the pointier the bit, the more it sticks out kind of on its own solo, the easier it is to miss it, harder it is to catch it, whichever way you want to put it. So any area that sticks out a lot, I mean, this is chaos, spikes, I'm just going to make sure that I've got covered, worth a second pass. It's such good gold already, right? I do love Retributor. Okay, so first step, I'm going to mix these 2 together. You can go with Seraphim first and then Reekland, depends how long you want to spend. And you don't have to worry too much about mixing your brush. Cleaning your brush from having gold in the mix, because, I mean, you're going over gold. It's not too fussy. So you can see from adding in our secret weapon, which is the Reekland, it's kind of made it more browny and less soft. Now this goes all over. Don't slap it on. What I want you to do is kind of dab it on. You need to catch every single bit. But if you dab it, what it's going to do is it's going to do some of the highlighting for you. We've got a very good video on this. It's on our Necron Lord. And essentially this is going to give you edge highlights without having to edge highlight. So you're dibbing it in the recesses, getting it all over, then dibbing it in the recesses. And by dibbing it in the recesses, it's not on the raised areas. So you're getting shading for free, and it's going to be perfect shading as well. Just because it's not heavy, it doesn't mean that you have to go super careful or anything. Getting it all over, and then a little dab in any recesses, and that'll deposit a heavy blob of paint there. Let it dry fully. We're good to go. It's already looking good. Now there is an optional step here, which is just to repeat it, any areas that you want to be darker. So you could dab at the bottom of the spikes, like that. Hopefully you can see. It's really effective. It doesn't take skill or brush control. You just got to not have too much on the brush. And if you like the color of this wash, you could just repeat this. You don't have to go to Agrax, which is going to be our next step. Agrax is quite strong, so I'm just going to dump it in my dish and it'll kind of overwhelm what's in there whilst mixing with it a little. So I'm going to be careful here. I might actually, even though it's a wash, I might go down to a smaller brush. We'll do 1 dib in a big area, see how it looks. Okay, I think we're good. So what I'm going to do now is those areas we dibbed in, any areas that are darker, you push it into that area. And what I mean by push is this. I'm gonna push and then I'm gonna lift off. And the area I lift off in, I want to be the darkest. Just let the model tell you where to highlight it, or shade it rather. So that could be around a rivet. And rather than just poking like that, it's really important to put it down and lift off in the area. Doing that is instantly going to improve the results that you can get with washes astronomically in one go. This works with contrast as well really well. So I'm just going to do that. Catch my rivets, catch my recessed areas, bottom of the spikes, and you're not having to pick where this is really. You can, obviously, if you want to, but I'm just following what the model has already from the first washes. Paint by numbers. Beginning to look pretty cool. This bit here especially is really showing the promise. But let that dry fully and we're gonna go on to the next step. Okay, so big jump down. Now I was using a size 2, which for scale on the back of my thumb is like this. This is a very old one that I've used for base coating for a long, long time. We're gonna drop down all the way to, still quite old, quite battered, but a 00. So this is just gonna blob down stuff in a smaller and more specific place. I'm gonna go for pure Agrax, which we can do because we've done an intermediate. It's not going to be that different from the previous color. Make sure I don't have too much on the brush. Test on my thumb. Again, lift off, lift off. And we're just going to exaggerate anything that we like the look of. So that could be a rivet. End it where you want it the darkest. Could be a section like this. And as you can see, probably this entire pass is going to take less than a minute. Each step you do, it gets quicker and quicker. That doesn't mean you should rush them. In fact, you should probably fight that urge. But there's nothing complex here, and the end result should speak for itself fantastically. That area wasn't actually dry, naughty. Okay, almost there, I think. Looking very cool. It's missing one thing though. So we've taken care of the recesses, and it's time to give a little bit of some treatment to the raised areas. If you're unable to do messy techniques, you can just skip to the next step that I'm gonna do. I'm going to quickly give these a little bit of a dry brush because I don't have to worry about getting it anywhere else because we still need to paint that area black. Taking a tiny bit of paint here. Make sure everywhere is 100% dry before doing this. This is going to look fantastic. Wow, maybe I don't even need to do the next step. I will show you how to do the next step for the people who can't do this with dry brushing. It's looking great. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add a little bit of an extremely strong silver to my gold. I'm going to use my default, which is Vallejo Game Air Silver. And then if you want to do an edge, what you can do is you can just pick out the easiest ones using the side of my brush. And that's going to make such a difference to how things look. Look at that spike. That spike looks amazing. And it was just not really hard work. We let the washes do the talking. It still looks shiny. It's very chaosy. We are absolutely fine. All right, I'm going to finish this and we'll come back. You'll see it with the areas blacked out, which make a really big difference, and we'll quickly cover some alternate options to push your gold in whatever direction you want. Okay, so we've done a very nice chaos one. How would we use exactly the same colors and pretty much the same sequence to achieve a much softer good guys one? So we covered chaos, worked out really well. How can you apply this to any gold using pretty much the same colors? So these are the colors that we used. We've gone from a light base all the way through to dark, and then we've dotted on our final highlights. So this is all of our gold. This is the gold base coat we put down. Our first step is going to be to wash all of it with Seraphim Sepia. Now, we're washing all of it, but as we've mentioned a couple of times, it's not going to pull at the edges. We've got a video that's really good for that I thoroughly recommend you watch after this. So we've covered 100%, but the wash has covered, let's say, 90%. Now we can mix at any stage between these, and mixing the dark one in will make it stronger, and leaving more of the previous softer one will make it lighter, and mixing will always improve coherency. Now what we've done is we've mixed in Reekland, and we've covered a smaller section. We've just followed it, and it's gone in the recessed areas. So we're painting by numbers, literally. And this one will be slightly darker. All right, and then we can shrink things a lot, and we can use Agrax or mix Agrax in with our previous mix. Now we'll do this, making it darker, and then we could use pure Agrax or repeat. Again, either is absolutely fine, and repeating will keep it more like the previous color, and then there'd be a little dot here of silver. Let's pop it on, why not? All right. There's our rivet. Okay, cool. So what if we want to get a completely different result, like a good guy's gold, using exactly the same colors and pretty much the same order as well? Well, what we do is we do the very first step, pretty much exactly the same. You could do the wash slightly thinner, you can mix in Reekland and keep it really thin. And then the next thing you do is you go way further, so we're leaving more of it soft, so we've not got high contrast on as much of it, and we mix in a little bit of Reekland. And then we jump all the way and very carefully around the rivets. We do our agrax like that. Now what we've got here is literally exactly the same colors. We've missed this one out. Okay, we've got the same colors in the same order, and we've achieved a completely different result. Hopefully the illustrations on the screen of the steps have made that clear. We're going to tackle the shoulder pad now. This might seem more complicated, but it's a really, really easy way of using the colors you've got to achieve completely different results. Just think about how much of it you want to be dark, how much of it you want to be light, and what's brilliant about this is very often this type of thing, because what's important is the overall impression and then high contrast, it often lets you skip middle steps. If you're going to alter any colors, it's very often going to be like if you wanted to make it greeny or something, it's very often going to be step number 1 or step number 2 that you're going to add a green in or a purple in for Slaanesh or something like that. We've got some paint recipes at the end of the tutorial for this. Okay, with that, you can paint any gold trim, any type of gold, and you can also paint any color in any way you like. Hopefully that's useful. All right, so here we go. Nothing has changed, same colors, but I'm going to take you through my processes quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix Retributor Armor and Doomball to try and get the first stage faster. But we are still going to be using Doomball because we want a bright, I don't know how you describe ultramarine gold. Good guy's gold. We still want it to be coming from a nice warm base. It's not drab at all. It's not old. It's going to look pretty shiny. We're just going to be pulling it back down less. So base coat wise, we've just mixed Retributor and Doomball, and I'll probably take 2 coats for this, I guess. Yeah, so 2 coats of that. We'll be good to go for the next step. First one went down pretty well actually, so I'm just going to go for pure Retributor for the second one. Base coat is down. Now I've tried to do this not messily, which is the easy way, as if I was trying to preserve the inside of the shoulder pad. If you struggle to get your base coat to do a really good job of covering on edges, don't worry about it too much because you're probably going to give them a quick highlight anyway. I've got a decent base coat on the fat areas at least, so now we can continue. Like I said, we're using a soft one and we're going to be using it pretty sparingly. A little bit of water in there. Now the aim for this is to dab it in the center of our areas. I already mentioned a video on edge highlighting without having to edge highlight. We're going to be using that technique. I'll link that at the end of this video because it's quite a good strategy. So literally, we're just dabbing in the middle. Don't miss any areas and don't go too thick. I'm using a smaller brush and I'm using the brush down its length to dab down the length of the pads. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a bit of Reekland in. It's made it quite a lot stronger, so I'm going to be careful. And we're going to dip it in the areas we want to be darker, which is probably going to be lower corners. Okay, and then just quickly repeat the same. Again, we're leaving and lifting off. There you go. That's the one that's made the difference. We're leaving it where we want the most to be deposited. Look at that, starting to get there. If we were doing our chaos, right, hopefully you can see the difference between the two now at this point. Softer, more subtle. We're still going to put edges on this, but I'm not going to push this much more. With being subtle in mind, I'm going to repeat that once more. I'm not going to use a darker one apart from around the rivet. So let's push these corners. Lovely. Agrax just to finish. Mixed it with what we've got there, again, because we don't want it quite as strong. I'm going to carefully dot this on the rivets. You could put a tiny bit in the corners, but I'm happy with them how they are. And what you need to bear in mind is, think of our diagram about the light bits and the dark bits, we're going to be adding in, all right, done. We're going to be adding in highlights. So I'm just going to clean up these edges, and I'll use a wash for that, and then we're good to go. In fact, I'll do that after I've done the edges, in case I make any mistakes. It's the same again, these two. World's Strongest Silver, and for edge highlighting, you can use the side of the brush and hold our breath. Turning the mini around to get the angle that we want to make it easiest. Okay, it looks great, so good. So if you make any mistakes, like I just did edge highlighting, you can use exactly the same principles that we've used already. I want to make this edge highlight less fat. I'm just going to wash it. end my strokes on it, and that'll disguise it a little at least. Probably no surprise what I'm using for my last step to any regular viewers of the channel. I'm going to be putting a wash in the gaps. I can't find my GW, so I'm just going to use Protocol's Black Wash. Last time I used this was in the winter because I just opened it and it's exploded due to it being warmer than it was when I last used it, I guess. Wonderful. Okay, so what we're going to be doing, exactly the same principles, and I'm just going to dab this into my recesses, and that'll create a gap, but it'll also hide the overspill. Absolutely magic. This is one of those things where knowledge can definitely outweigh brush control, especially for, you know, getting a pretty decent result quite fast. Just dab this in, and no one needs to know. Easy. Okay, so as promised, if you're a devotee of one of the other Chaos gods, we're going to pop up some recipes on the screen now for how you can alter things. Now, if you're doing like one of the cleaner, especially good guys ones, so you're not doing Khorne, you're not doing Nurgle, which can obviously be as dirty as you like, you want to be careful using CP you might be okay with, but using anything like Agrax, you're really going to dirty off your color. So it might work out better for you to use, in steps 1 or 2 of your sequence, for you to use something like Violet, but just dilute it with medium and then use it pure around the rivets or something like that. So hold it in mind, anything that's got a brown in it or a black is going to dirty your color. That can look quite nice on red, so you maybe can get away with it there, but probably just save it for the rivets. Hopefully you find the recipes useful. Definitely check out the video linked here on the screen for how to control your washes, and check out the tutorial here for something on improving your brush control with smaller stuff. We used it on animal markings and that'd look brilliant next to a gold. Enjoy.